So there are so many things in that conversation I want to trail off on, but I'm going to curb myself. I'm going to be disciplined because I have in studio a genius. And when you have somebody in the studio like this, you lend them the time when you have them. Dave Davidson, you are one of the creative geniuses of our day.
Thanks, Tamara.
I do. I mean that, and I appreciate the gifts that you have. Sought after photographer.
Yeah, and sometimes I just show up whether people want me around anyway. Like last night. No, I mean, not that they didn't want me around, but they actually told me at the end of last night because Polk County had an event and Governor Jindal was there, and then the gals running it said, "Well, we knew you'd come." Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, that's how it works sometimes.
Not me. I don't take it for granted. I call you.
You gotta show up.
I call you.
Up. Yeah.
And so let me just tell you and our listeners, Dr. Alveda King will be here Martin Luther King Day.
Okay.
Her idea to come to Des Moines. And this was before Ferguson. She and I connected at an event in Memphis, Tennessee, walking through the Civil Rights Museum. I was so taken by the fact that she was not bitter, angry, not entitlement, as she was showing us, the situations and the circumstances where, her uncle had marched, her dad had marched, her uncle was killed, her dad was killed. Mm-hmm. She was imprisoned as a young 17-year-old.
Wow.
She's not bitter. She's not angry.
She's very sweet. Of course, she was at the Family Leadership Summit this fall, and she was just so sweet backstage. And so it sounds like maybe it's another event I'll show up to, one way or another.
That's what I'm just telling you. Tuck it somewhere. Put it in your cap because we'd like to see you show up at that one.
I mean, you can tell me right out and out. I mean, some events, they expect me to be there. So, hey, I mean, I work that way too.
So tell us what else you're doing, because you're all over. You're busy, and I know you've got a lot of projects under your hat, and I think you probably work on several at the same time.
Yes, I do. I can tell you a little bit about me real quick by a couple of numbers.
Yeah, we probably should talk about who you are.
It's been 25 years this month where I met my wife, Joan, on the mission field, and we have 8 kids, 3 of which we had the regular way and 5 of which by the phone, meaning through the foster care system. But 7 years ago this month, Tamara, my brother, who you mentioned before, we've written books together, and I was doing wedding photography, still do, and he's hounding me to go see this guy Huckabee, okay, in the Iowa caucus. And I got to tell you, Tamara, I'm a regular citizen at the time. December 2007, I didn't care at all. He kept hounding me. I go, look, okay, I'll go to one, and you got to get off my back. And I went to this event. Long story short, I felt God just call me to get into politics and to use my camera. I thought, here's a guy, Mike Huckabee, a godly leader. I didn't know that could be possible. Same thing when I met my wife. I didn't know there's a correlation here, I guess. I didn't know God made women like that. She's handing out gospel tracts. I didn't know God made, maybe all politicians aren't these evil people, these deceiving people. And when I submerged myself into politics, as the last 7 years, as I was saying, I've learned that there's a lot of great people. I got to know pretty much all the candidates on the GOP, and I got a lot of neat, outcomes from that. And so I'm putting that into some books and some documentaries, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that's kind of what I've been doing lately.
How many books have you written?
I thought you might be asking me that. I'll answer it this way. I'm not sure. I think I've done just under 20 in the marketplace with other publishers, but self-publishing, it's several dozen. So what I've done, Tamara, is I've taken a complete inventory of my ideas, and I have a 100-book goal. And I'm just under 50 on doing that with the PDFs and the ebooks on Amazon. So I have a 100-book goal. I've done about 50, and about almost half of those have been with regular publishers, but I like to do it so no one edits me too much. You're not censoring much here. No.
Nope.
I need editing.
Delay.
I need editing, but
there's not even a delay.
People can't keep up with me. So next year, what will happen is, you remember the Bush-isms book, Tamara?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was the quotes that, whether they were, taken out of context or not, they made George Bush look bad, and he didn't need the help sometimes. And so what I did with Huckabee, and I'm doing with other candidates, is next year is doing an ism series where there's a photo, I call them a quoto photo, and they're a good quote about them, and they'll be in some books. So the top 6 candidates next year during the race, I'll have isms books on them. That's a deal.
That will not necessarily hurt them, or
no, it's positive quotes,
right?
And New Leaf Press out of Arkansas, who I actually did the Surviving Temptation Island book years ago. I actually met with them. We went down there for the Duggar wedding, and we kind of got back together. Let's do this project amongst others. And so I'll be working with some publishers again, because I need their help. I can't, they're going to keep up with me this time.
Good luck to them.
So I'm designing a lot of quoto photos. And you can see some of those at Prezography, which is Prezography. I don't know how to spell ography, so Prezography.com.
How do you come up with all these words, Dave Davidson? Because there are several things like that you just throw together and they work and they're excellent.
I appreciate that. Well, I like branding, and Prezography was born out of the fact that at a certain point, well, what do I call myself when I do political photography? So, and that was a term that was friendly for all the candidates, not just Huckabee. So I ended up doing Cruzisms and even Trumpisms and all these isms to tell a short story, because we're such a soundbite world right now.
Unfortunately,
right?
yes.
And so you see the picture and you see the quote, and maybe that image helps to tell the quote, and sometimes that might swing a vote. I like to be a vote raiser, and I like to raise other vote raisers, because it's not always just money.
Absolutely.
I've worked on a lot of campaigns the last 7 years, and I've worked on some with you. We've been on bus rides together. Yes.
Several bus tours.
Yes.
And okay, but you're right. It's not just the money. I mean, we have several great candidates. Usually not, in my opinion, the best candidate that has the most money. Now, maybe that will happen in the next race, and I'll be delighted. But It's not usually the best candidate that has the most money.
Right. Well, you look at Santorum, and he won by 35 votes. I mean, if a few things don't happen, he doesn't win. For example, the Duggars came up out of the blue and helped campaign for him, and that helped swing 35 votes. Now, there was other things that fell by the wayside with other campaigns we probably won't get into right now, but that perfect storm, election day, now it didn't add up the right day, the first day, but ultimately, was there one person that helped Santorum get past 35 votes? That's a vote raiser. That's the type of thing I want to be a part of this next election cycle.
All right. So I'm talking with Dave Davidson. If people want to know who you are and find you, how do they do that?
Well, I have the Twitters and the Facebooks, Dave Davidson, and the domain names. But for presidential photography, Prezography, and probably what we'll talk about next is the documentary Shooting the President, and then another big surprise I have for you. So shootingthepresident.com, you can see the trailer. If you want to see me dance on a golf court, photographing presidential candidates, shootingthepresident.com is worth 2 minutes. I'd say just turn the radio off right now and watch it. I'm sorry. We just lost at least.
Are we going to get into trouble just like the movie The Interview that is now under censorship? And
well, that's a whole nother story. Shooting the President is, of course, I'm a shooter. I take what I'm. Yeah. So it's not guns, folks. It's a story of a tall, crazy guy shooting presidential
Dave Davidson. You probably just put us on every watch list out there if we weren't already. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about shooting the president. As Dave
quote
Davidson,
unquote, asterisk.
Dave Davidson does. And so we'll be talking about that when we come back, but we will give our sponsors a chance to talk to you as well. Thanks for staying tuned. And it's also Christmas time. I want you to be thinking about your plans for Christmas. If you're hoping for that one Kodak moment, that one special day, that making wonderful memories, I think about this. You won't have one perfect day if you're not working at it 364 days a year. You can't just have it the one day. So be thinking about your family, be thinking about relationships, and be thinking about your own heart and what you can do to make those good, well, and pleasant. And we may do a show on this yet next week. Be tuned, be watching, because we may do a show on helping families cope and overcome the loss of someone, but get past some of just those uncomfortable, awkward moments we have as families. It's called growing pains. It doesn't mean you're dysfunctional. It doesn't mean you can't get along and have a great time 3 months down the road. Sometimes you just need to work things out in the moment. And so we'll be talking about that maybe next week. But I want you to be thinking about it, praying about it in your own heart. What can you do to make the holidays more pleasant for those around you and those people God put in your life to love? We'll be right back after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team,
I'll take a call anytime.
and then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Hi, this is Tamara Scott. We're talking politics. Did you just hear the word unfair advantage? That's another great name for a movie. We're talking with Dave Davidson. You will recognize his name with Presography. Would you be the founder, the owner of Presography? Would that be the way to describe you? The creative
Button
force.
pusher.
The
Yes.
creative force.
I push buttons a lot.
The sniper. He's the sniper behind
Photo
the-
sniper. I like that. Polite presidential paparazzi, I prefer.
So when we left, we were talking about Shooting the President, which is a movie that, is this already done or you're working on it?
Well, a lot of it's shot, but over the next year, we're going to be editing this down and probably kind of end it as far as timeline around the straw poll time, whether there's a straw poll or not, and then bring that documentary out right before the caucus. So it'd be coming out this time next year, December next year.
And we is who?
Pardon?
Who is we?
Oh, yes. Some of you might know these superstar political friends of mine up there in Cedar Falls, Craig Bergman, Judd Saul, and my new cohort, Monty Godike. And in fact, they just did a documentary called Unfair, which was exposing the IRS. There was no car chase scenes in this documentary. I worked on it. There was no making out, but it was
Did you blow anything up?
But they really upset the IRS. And see, documentaries are a tool, Tamara, and that vote raisers can use to influence others. Like, hey, here's an issue. Well, watch this. You were just asking me about the caucus film, which another filmmaker, A.J. Schnock, did. And that tells a story about the caucuses. And even Mitt, a candidate, of all the candidates, I didn't know Mitt Romney the most because when he was here, I actually already had commitments with other candidates. And I watched that film and I liked the man better because you get to see an intimate side of him with his family.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad guy. It wasn't that he was a bad guy. It was that a lot of Americans didn't feel like they could relate to him because he was so
I'll bet you
successful.
$10,000 that's true. No, that's not right. See, that's the example. I'm just messing.
For those of you who don't know that, it was a debate. Was it a debate here at Sheslow Auditorium?
I don't know if
Where
it was
that?
here. Yeah, well, he bet people. He bet
Where
the other
was
candidate.
that? It was
right?
in the middle of
I
a
think-
debate.
Was it Perry? Anyways, yeah, you don't bet people $10,000.
$10,000. Yeah, I do every day for lunch. It's just,
Well,
yeah.
the other bet we had at the break we can't talk about.
Yeah,
but-
well, okay. So let's go. Ryan, do we have that trailer? We're going to go to that trailer right now for those
you
of
guys
you.
are crazy. This is the cutting edge show. I just want everybody to know.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to that trailer right now. Shooting the President. Dave Davidson's way.
Iowa, If you vote, they will come.
The spotlight is on Iowa.
They are the presidential candidates who every 4 years launch newfound white households, attracting press, pundits, consultants, and cronies. The Iowa caucus is first in the nation, for good reason, and it should be. My name is Dave Davidson. I'm a photographer and author, living in Iowa with my hot wife and our gobs of kids. You may notice I'm a little tall, so I'd like to share with you my perspective. The past 2 Iowa caucuses inspired underdog victories like no other. And I was there behind the scenes, capturing the candidates like a polite presidential paparazzi. I was there in 2008 when Barack Obama upset Hillary Clinton and Mike Huckabee defeated Mitt Romney.
That tie was a gift given to me by Mitt Romney. Irony of ironies, I was wearing it the night of the caucus.
And you just realized it. And all along the 2012 campaign trail of coffee shops, debates, heartaches, and handshakes, when Minnesotans, Michelle Bachmann and Tim Pawlenty, bet all their chips on the Iowa straw poll.
It's tough luck, Charlie.
When Newt Gingrich and Herman Cain shared days in the spotlight.
Pepperoni, Italian sausage, and a lot of cheese.
When Texans Ron Paul and Rick Perry campaigned on their own terms. When Mike Huckabee and Sarah Palin flirted with joining the race.
Run, Sarah, run!
And of course, when Rick Santorum edged out Mitt Romney.
Great!
With 2016 fast approaching, we look at the key players, the plot backdrops, and the rare glimpses influencing and foreshadowing the next presidential election. These are the inside stories from Iowa insiders you won't find anywhere else. You can't find anywhere else.
Google it today.
Google what? It? Google it? Here behind the sces.
Really, you're good at that.
Appreciate it. Through my lens.
Politics, politics, politics.
Shooting the president.
This is awesome.
Did he win you over?
Almost.
Yeah. Almost. Okay.
Shooting the president, Dave Davison.
It's always fun to see that. Good memories.
And so you
fun
joined,
stuff.
you know, you mentioned Monty, but you said his name differently than I do. How do you pronounce his last name?
Godike.
That's not the right way. Is that the
I
right
have
way?
a text message right here that says it.
That's the right way.
Yes. Because I call him Monty. He's the full Monty. Now, he was starting to do recently a film on Rand Paul.
Yes, he was, right.
And we started kind of hanging out, and we're 2 tall guys in the back of the room. Although I don't know, you've probably seen me ninja through the. I've seen you
from the
sit really
rafters.
close up. You're kind of important. You're a big deal, and I have to ninja through, and I see you and Lowell, your husband, and I'm like high-fiving you down there. Anyways, I digress. But Monty and I are now working on a new film that would come after this Shooting the President, which would come out Strategery. Remember, we're talking Strategery here. Jeb Bush's brother, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? Okay, you've heard this name.
I've heard this name.
How about a movie that comes out about the nominee, right before the election, called The Nominee? The Nominee movie.
And no matter who it is, you'll be ready because
We'll have all
footage.
this footage. It'll be a film about, coming out like in September of 2016, okay? And it'll be about this person, who they are, how'd they get there. And we'll have all this footage, and we'll probably stop maybe the story around the convention time there in Cleveland and then tie a bow around that. And we're hoping that's going to be full theatrical release, okay? Where the other film will be some theaters and so forth. But that is one to watch. We really hope to influence people, to introduce them or to reintroduce them to another side of this person. And it's partly a risk because we don't know who it is, but we have the relationships, and it's a step of faith, Tamara, that, as I took 7 years ago to fill in the gaps of telling the story. So now I know why I've been doing this, because I've only been thinking documentary the last year or so. So the first 5.5 years I've been in politics, I didn't always know what God had in store. I just knew that I was to obey and to keep showing up at places.
Nothing with you is a step, Dave. Everything is a giant leap, a leap and a bound.
There you go.
So when you came in 7 years ago, I get it that your brother called you and you showed up and you decided you needed to get involved. But for a lot of people, it's a calling. What is it that you hope to accomplish with these? You talked about vote raisers, but just vote rate. You just want to get the vote out. Is it why? What's your calling? What's your purpose?
When you do, these documentaries will be about the process in Iowa, like shooting the president, and then the nominee will be about that person. But yeah, people need to vote, but they also need, I want to just kind of demystify the whole. I mean, fundraising obviously is important, but what does money go into ultimately than to do things than to influence a vote? I was at, and maybe you were there because I see you so much, but there was an event where Rick Santorum and Michelle Bachmann, I think another candidate was at, and it was just one of your regular old chili things, chili thingy-dings. And I remember this guy saying, I think to Rick Santorum at the time, if you go farther at the time, he said, I would like to donate he'd like to do some catering, okay? And that was his way of leveraging his influence for a particular cause. And you get a lot of calls from the Ron Paul campaign when you live in Iowa, bless their heart. And I remember them saying that, hey, if you come in and do some calling, we'll give you a free haircut. And I'm thinking, yes, someone had donated haircutting. That's what they could give, Tamara. I have besides being tall, which can help. I don't know, maybe not as much.
You get better photos than I do.
That's true.
I have the back of everybody else's head.
I have a camera, and I've written things, and I've put, it's like, how can God use Dave Davidson? But really, when people see these movies, how can they get involved? I mean, you talked about Common Core before and these issues. This woman you had on your show before, she just started writing on a thing called Twitter. Okay, people need to get involved. We can't just sit back and just let Tamara Scott be on the radio and then this person do this. We all can vote raise. It might just be getting a few people to the voting booth and tell them why you think a certain way. Well, why do you think a certain way? Well, watch a documentary and that's a tool for you to understand things better.
Well, you're talking about vote raising, and I would say voice raising. Everybody needs to raise their voice. Maybe that's written pen. Maybe that isn't the haircut way, but somehow you're helping out and raising a voice. Maybe it's not yours. Maybe you're not even comfortable being out front or talking publicly, but you're raising a voice. So It's not just vote raisers. It's raising the voice of those you want to have heard, the opinions you want out there.
People share this on Facebook. You put a quote up. I call them quote photos, but we all see these graphics of maybe a candidate with a quote or some cause.
Are they memes?
Memes, right.
Okay.
I design them slightly different, but the point is people see that and then they share it.
Right.
And then the Twitter, and we're all influencers.
You are the tool. You are the tool for this generation as far as getting the message out there. We talked about sound bites. I think we probably should come up with a new word for it because it's not just a sound bite. The 7-second thing we used to allow people on mainstream media.
Right.
But now it's a flashpoint on a screen, whether it's Instagram.
Yeah, one quote, one image sometimes can help swing a vote or take someone complacent to at least get in the game. I mean, I got into politics on a dare. I'm sitting there designing wedding pictures, and I'm telling my own brother, get lost, be quiet, shut up, you're bothering me. I got some deadlines, okay? And so I know how it's like to go from, in the frying pan, and I didn't know what God had in store for me, but I didn't need to know at that time, okay? I just needed to get involved. And the way I got involved was starting to show up. It might mean something else to somebody else. It might just mean watching documentaries and starting reading some books and adding some people on Facebook that normally you wouldn't let them influence you. There's no reason to be not informed this day and age with this biased media. There's a lot of great websites and
Right. And so it's not just listening to the TV, the three main channels that have talked to us forever, or even the cable shows that we have great recognition.
Right.
It's getting good information. And you said getting the right information, and I would say, how do you do that? The Bible would tell you test it with the word. There has to be a plumb line. And I said it earlier in the show, but having returned from Birkenau and Auschwitz, it's really difficult not to bring that up constantly, not to consistently.
You have a new filter, you said.
I feel everything is filtered through that.
Right.
Let me tell you, I fell a couple weeks ago. It was one of those falls. I bounced pretty well. I'm thankful that if God didn't give me grace, He lets me bounce well.
You had a physical fall.
Oh, yeah. I bounce really well most times. But this particular time, I was going down steps in heels, and that wasn't the problem. But when I went down, everything, I was kind of caught on things, legs going opposite directions. And I was in pain. So you have to kind of collect yourself to even figure out what might be broken before you try to stand on it.
You were in pain because you hit something, not because you were floating, right?
I hit.
Okay.
I hit. And so while I was sitting there going, trying to feel if that limb was still attached and okay, and could I move it. I realized I had just learned this in Auschwitz. Had I been in that camp and fallen like that, they would shoot you. They didn't give you a chance to recover. They didn't help you up. They just shot you. And I just thought, can you imagine how quickly your life would be changed? How quickly, well, obviously, that sounds, obviously life has changed, but I'm just saying, had I been born in a different time, a different area, and not had the choices and the chances that I get here in America, one fall and you'd be doomed. You'd be gone. Even for those who survived the camps, and we know that those are rare. Those people, I didn't realize that no one really survived past 3 months. One man did because he could speak German and they could use him to translate.
Use him, yeah.
But other than that, and that would be misusing him, because there's nothing wrong with using somebody's talents or utilizing somebody's talents, but to misuse them.
Right.
So I can't help but putting things through that filter. So now more than ever, we have to know the information we're getting, that it's sound, that it's solid, and
you have to do your due diligence as a voter. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll go." Don't just watch what is fed to you like on an ad. Take that in consideration, because it may or may not be true. I mean, there's only 2 choices. A lot of ads, believe it or not, they're untrue. Okay? And so you got to get your news from several different sources.
I wish it were just the ads that were untrue.
Right.
It's now the headlines that are written in a way to change opinion. The story can't even back up the headline, but they write it that way.
Oh, yes, I'm familiar with the Obama administration.
I'm talking media, too.
Oh, well, yeah, like I said, I am familiar with the Obama administration. Say it again. It's the same punchline.
This is why I like what you're doing. Because for those people who don't want to read, which is, frankly, most people anymore, they don't want to read. They want to look. They want a quick glimpse. So you need to come up with a new Dave Davidson term for a quick glimpse, because that's all people give you anymore.
Okay.
But you're still reaching out to that younger group and getting truth. You're at least making them think. You're provoking thought.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell us, what else are we working on?
Well, that's a lot, Tamara. I'm working on 2 films that, I'm always got ideas, but I do focus. I'm doing the same publisher, something I've been working on, about some verse memory things and some homeschooling. It's interesting. We have these 8 kids, and some of them are homeschooled, some of them are in public, and some of them are in private, because that's exactly what we need for those kids. They have traumatic backgrounds from abuse and so forth. And so as a parent, it's what we need to do. And so I have this acronym for my life. You say you have a filter, right? And it's an acronym for the word time. And if I can teach, inspire, motivate, encourage people, I'm probably in. And then I double timed it. And that, I don't know if I can remember that, but it talked about being equipping and motivating and encouraging people as well. But basically, if that's in my zone, then I'm gonna try to be that positive influence. And politics isn't always positive. You and I know that. I can see it in your eyes. We've been through the trenches before with candidates, and we've been disappointed. But here's the thing. I've been on Ancestry.com a month or so ago. I had my 3-day binge on that. I just went, and I discovered that one of my relatives was in the Revolutionary War. And I'm picturing this person taking up a musket, if you will, whatever the situation was. You can kind of picture it. I can just pick up a camera and maybe be an influence for my country to maybe possibly influence for example, a pro-life candidate to maybe end up helping possibly changing abortion or just good things. I look at his mission work. If I can help influence the leader of the free world, maybe that leader of the free world can lead the free world in his or her sphere of influence better. And that's ministry.
And you just hit on something, and this is another point where Iowans especially have to be very careful. It's not just what we read or what sources we take in. It's organizations that we decide to align with, because you just talked about influencing a leader. We're trying to get information to folks so they can make a good decision on leaders.
Right.
But in this state, we also get the opportunity to influence leaders. And what a crucial role that is. I know in past elections there have been candidates that we have influenced in better ways. They've become stronger in their stances. They've had a better understanding. One of them got here and never understood immigration was such an issue in the Midwest, didn't expect it.
Right.
But because we have I-35 and I-80 connecting and intersecting, it's an issue here in Iowa. We have changed the views of candidates and how important that is as well.
Well, it's quite the spring training. If you see a candidate in maybe these early stages, we got the Big King event, a lot of candidates coming January 24th, which I'm
I'm not going
honored
to be here. I'm so frustrated. I'm not.
Oh,
gonna
you'll
be
be here in spirit to me. I don't believe you for a second. You're everywhere. You're Visa, baby. Okay. But you got a lot of candidates coming in, and then that sets a whole new mode. It's a different field after that, just by their speeches and the reaction. And then, that's a lot of attention. So
I'm so pleased he's doing that. It's already sold out, I think.
yeah.
I think all the major players are going to be here.
And I'm honored to be the photographer for
Governor
that event.
Jindal will not be.
He will not be.
Because he is, as earlier Commander-in-Chief, Washington, Lincoln, several others have called this nation to prayer, repentance, prayer, and fasting. And he's called for that on January 24th in Louisiana.
Yeah, he gets a pass.
Pete
He's
Maravich.
he's an excused absence.
Is it Pete Maravich or Pete Maravich? I'm never sure how to pronounce his last name. Maravich. And who was a believer as well. And it's going to be in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center, seats 12,000. You can get your tickets. You can get on Facebook and do a search for The Response USA, and get information on that. But he wants as many people to come as
That's
possible.
in Louisiana.
In Louisiana.
But in Hoyt Sherman,
in Iowa.
that's already sold out. So who knows how they'll, Citizens United, no doubt, will spread that word.
Is there some website people can get information on that?
Yeah, it's called Google. And then you type in King January 24th. I'm serious. That's how I find it every time.
That's it?
Yeah, because you got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you got Christie coming, you got Palin coming, you got Trump coming, Cruz, Santorum, Huckabee.
And it's sold out.
Bush is invited. I mean, it's all coming together. It's sold out. And you got other speakers that aren't running and I don't want to mispronounce their names. It's the pronunciation show.
So when people talk about Iowa being the first in the nation, and sometimes with a little, I think, envy, other states would like to have that. I hope people understand that while you're still recovering from Christmas and enjoying maybe the winter sports, going skiing, Iowans will once again be in a building listening to speaker after speaker after
last
speaker.
night with Governor Jindal. I'm just saying, I saw you there last night, Tamara. And we're taking time out because we're doing our due diligence.
Right.
We take it serious.
Right.
Because if we go to say something later, and if you have a perspective on it, you're not just pulling that out from what you believed a year ago. It's liquid. You got your character and your standards. I'm talking about you. And then you got that as National Committee woman. You are everywhere, and you're doing a great job, by the way.
Ryan, save this clip.
Yeah, she's
We'll
she's
save that
Visa.
little clip.
Now, can Visa be a sponsor, maybe? They got a nice, but you are everywhere. I know if I'm at the right spot if I see you in Lowell.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. All right, so we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. So what else do you want our listeners to know about Dave Davidson and the movies that you're doing, or where they need to be watching for you?
Well, we are raising money for both films. And so, just fling me the bucks. Just bring me the bling. Is that right? Is that the way to pitch people?
And I
don't think so.
want to touch on that because that
totally
was really
kidding.
well done.
I'm like a rapper,
But
there's
we see
legitimate
but we
fundraising going on right now.
You just used the word legitimate because in Hollywood, because people think this is a hometown movie, this is a small time thing, but in Hollywood they do the same thing. They raise money, maybe not with just the finesse that you just did it right there, but they raise the money for their shows. And so you need money here. So somebody who has that, and we've talked earlier about how people can help. You talked about being a vote raiser however you can, whether it's haircuts. So maybe somebody out there has the ability to raise some funds or put you in front of people who can help you raise the funds.
Yes. They can find
This
me.
could be their way, their gift of
Yes.
making sure that words, that truth, that honesty hits the screen.
Right. And with funding a film, when you're an investor, think about it. When that makes profit, you actually get a return. Other political things don't get a return. Maybe you get a moral return, hopefully. And so it's new to me to raise money for a bigger project, but I'm not here to swing for singles. We want to hit home runs with these films. We want to really influence tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, okay? And so, yeah, we need money. We need prayers. And if I'm taking your picture, smile. Or, come on. Work with me, people. Work with me.
If you ever need a photographer for anything, I don't care what it is, he will break the ice and he will make people comfortable and he will get great shots. If you ever need a photographer, you need to call Dave Davidson. So, Dave Davidson, around your dinner table, does your family sit around the dinner table?
We do as much as we can. Sometimes I hover, Tamara, because it's stressful. And so so we do sit together. It's great. We have our son back. We got 8 kids, 18 to 5. And then we've had some other foster kids. And so we've got hearts for them too. And so we don't know where God will end that journey. We don't limit God, but that's where we're holding fast at 8. But when I started politics, we just had the 3. So all these other 5 kids that came by phone came during this political time. In fact, I'll just say this last memory was during the first caucus in 2012, actually, the second one. I wanted all the kids there, but we just got a little baby, foster baby. I'm thinking, how can we all have everyone? Because I got to work the event. And we went to Santorum's at the time, and God came through and gave me the Duggar gals helped me
how fun.
Nurture this little baby we had for a week. And so we've been big buds with them. They're just great people. And so God will fill in the gaps, okay? That's my wife and I, Joan Davidson's kind of mantra. You know, we've taken these steps with politics, with family. And if you don't leap, you know, how can God bring the bridge? You know, kind of like that scene from Back to the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones. The bridge is there. So when in doubt, the Duggar girls can maybe babysit your foster child at a very busy. This is kind of my life. Okay, so yeah, I don't always sit down, but I'm walking around the dinner table making sure those kids are closing their eyes and using their napkins, closing their eyes during prayer, wiping their mouth, and taking their dishes not to the sink, Tamara, but to the dishwasher first. This is my job in the kitchen. Don't even get me started.
You mentioned your wife's name, and let me just say, give a shout out to her because you are busy, you're high energy, and having that many kids in the house, I don't know how she does it. It takes a special woman to have a calming
Very
influence
special.
and to juggle
She's
everything
a superstar.
she does.
She's amazing. Do we have another hour? Can we talk about my wife? I'm sure she'd love it. We're going an extra hour, folks. We're going to talk about Joan Davidson, my wife.
She is,
I have a lot of nice words for her.
Anybody that keeps you going and keeps you out, we appreciate that. We need her. We need her back there doing that, so you can be out here. 4 minutes left. Christmas coming up.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to? Because so you have family, you have foster kids, you have every scenario possible.
So you want me to cry? This is great. Let's hit all the emotions.
No. And you've now adopted kids too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've been through all the facets. What would you say? So families out there that, and maybe I really should have you come back and do a show on this, because there's so many families out there that are just struggling. Holidays are not the pleasant, wonderful thing for everyone that we think they should be.
Right. Yeah, I love Christmas, Tamara. My brother and I've written a couple Christmas books, and the theme that I hit, that God gave me last year as I was going through a tough time missing one of the foster kids we had for a year and a half, and then we didn't see this little baby, okay? And we're still trying to see this little baby. It was hard, but I identify with the people who were having that tough time during the holidays. And the 2 words came to me was stay merry. And that's an intentional choice to try to trust God even when things aren't going your way. And once again, this Christmas, I have to do the same thing. I'm still missing this child I met at 3, the same one that Duggars held, okay? I met this girl, and I told her I'd be her dad. And now she's with the meth mom, okay? And that's fine. I want to be in her life. It's hard because I can't just foster care. Some people say, well, how could you do that? Could you do that? I could never do that. Well, you know what? I'd do it a million times over. Give me a break on the excuses, okay? You have a nice home, you have a nice marriage, and you have an extra room, and you're not doing such and such foster. Give me a break. We'll do a show on the 100 excuses, and I'll squash every one of them. I've been the most broken-hearted guy over this stuff, and I do it a million times over, okay? We got a lot of love. We got a lot of dysfunction in our house. We've added a lot of dysfunction, and it makes for very good conversation. Come on, folks. You think your family's dysfunctional at Thanksgiving? I will see that dysfunction and add you some trauma, some trauma kids. But back to Christmas, I'll just say that you have to choose it, okay? You got the Christmas spirit is the Holy Spirit. Long story short, it's when you see these clues that remind you of childhood, you remember here's now a time that God can actually speak to you. You've finally opened presents, you've finally done this, and you can maybe receive some of God's love that you've been putting out, you've been so busy all year. It finally settles on you. The Christmas spirit is God working and trying to catch your attention. So try to stay merry. Some of the struggles you have are because God's allowed that. He's sovereign. Secondly, he's trying to bless you and bring you to his son. So that's a quick way to say Christmas, but man, it's tough for people. And so we just pray that your listeners, if they're having a tough time, welcome to the club. Intentionally try to maybe be generous or keep your spirits up, because not every Christmas is going to be like that. I'm going to have 2 rough ones in a row, but I got plenty to be thankful for. And I'll just try to be faithful and try to love others during this time, even though I might be hurting a little bit.
And I think you hit on something, Dave. The people who are unhappy, who are miserable, and it doesn't always have to do with your outside exterior circumstances. Sometimes there's just an unsettling in the heart. But if you'll take your mind, your eyes off yourself, if you'll think about somebody else's predicament, what somebody else may be doing, and especially when you think everybody else around you has it just swell. They may just have every picture-perfect life.
No, they're
from
faking
the outside.
it. They're wearing. I mean, you got a nice sweater, but behind those Christmas crazy sweaters, there's some crazy going on, folks. Diagnose it.
but it may not even be that they're faking it, but everybody has their hurts. Everybody has their issues to deal with, and so understand that if you take eyes off yourself and put them on somebody else, we like to ring the bell at Christmas. It's a great way to get your kids just to see all the things that are out there, all the things that are happening. But we're out of time. We'll have to talk about that another time. But Dave Davidson, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
For those of you out there listening, I do want you to focus on Christmas. It is a choice. He's absolutely right. Decide this day whom you'll serve. Decide this day
Stay merry.
How pleasant you'll be while you're doing it. And stay merry, M-E-R-R-Y.
That's right.
As we honor M-A-R-Y and the Son that she gave us.
But yes,
All
Jesus.
right.
Yep.
We've given you a lot to think about. I hope that you enjoy this Christmas spirit. But above all, like Dave said, use your gift for the Lord. See what you can do to make a difference in your community, because we have some very pressing issues that we need to deal with as a country, as a community, as a church, as a body. And be encouraged. Never be complacent.